As we age, our priorities naturally shift, and things that once seemed crucial, like keeping a large group of friends, may not feel as important anymore. Here's the truth. After 70, you may not need friends in the way you once did. It might sound surprising, but when you take a moment to reflect, you'll see why embracing independence and prioritizing your own well-being can be incredibly rewarding. In this video, we'll explore 6 reasons why friendships might not be as essential in your later years. We'll dive into how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can improve when you stop stressing over relationships that no longer add value to your life. This isn't about loneliness. It's about living life on your terms, free from the pressures and expectations that come with maintaining certain social ties. Stick around until the end, because letting go of the need to maintain friendships might be more freeing than you think and could completely shift how you approach your later years. Let's dive in. Reason number 1, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the key reasons you might not need friends after 70 is that you've already passed through the phase of life where social validation mattered. Think back to your younger years. How often did friendships revolve around proving yourself, fitting in, or meeting expectations? Whether it was impressing colleagues, maintaining social circles, or ensuring you were included in social gatherings, there was always an underlying pressure to be seen and accepted. But now, you're at a point where none of that is necessary anymore. You've built your life and legacy, and other people's opinions simply don't carry the same weight they used to. At this stage, you understand that true fulfillment comes from within, not from external approval. There's no longer any need to chase friendships for status, reputation, or social standing. You are who you are, and you don't need validation from anyone to prove that. Many younger people spend time worrying about how they're perceived, whether they're liked, admired, or respected. But by the time you've reached your later years, you realize that your worth isn't defined by others. You define it yourself, and you don't need a group of people to reinforce it. Take someone like Harold, a man in his early 70s who spent most of his career climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by colleagues, acquaintances, and what he thought were friends. But as soon as he retired, those relationships faded away. Initially, he felt the urge to keep those connections alive, but then he had an epiphany. Why put effort into friendships that existed only because of work? Why continue pursuing relationships that were never truly meaningful? So, Harold stopped trying to maintain ties out of habit. He turned his attention inward, rediscovered old hobbies, and most importantly, stopped worrying about impressing others. He realized that without the burden of maintaining friendships, he felt freer. No more forced small talk, no more social obligations, no more wondering if people liked him. For the first time in a long time, he was living life on his own terms, and it felt liberating. When you no longer seek validation from others, you begin to see just how much energy you were spending on relationships that didn't add true value to your life. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. The only person whose expectations you need to answer to is yourself. Reason number 2, peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you get older, something shifts. Peace starts to feel far more precious than socializing. In your younger years, being around people might have felt like a necessity. The noise, the gatherings, the conversations, it all seemed like an essential part of a fulfilling life. But with time, you begin to appreciate something even more: quiet. And not just any quiet, but the kind that brings a sense of ease, free from unnecessary drama, obligations, and the exhaustion that comes with socializing. Many friendships, even the good ones, come with their own set of responsibilities. There are phone calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to keep in touch. It's not that friendships are bad. It's just that, at a certain stage in life, they can feel like more effort than they're worth. The truth is, you no longer have to spend your time keeping up with others or feel obligated to be available just because someone expects it. You've reached a point in life where your time is yours to spend however you choose. Take Margaret, for example. At 74, she once had a large circle of friends, lunches, group calls, holiday gatherings. Her calendar was always full. But over time, she began to feel that many of these social interactions were more draining than enjoyable. The conversations had become repetitive, with the same stories being told over and over. Some friends only called to complain. Others were more interested in gossip than meaningful discussion. The joy of companionship had gradually turned into a routine she no longer found fulfilling. One day, Margaret decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty about turning down invitations she wasn't excited about and let go of the pressure to immediately respond to every call or text. Instead, she began to embrace the quiet. She found that the time she used to spend managing friendships was now hers to use however she liked. She started taking longer walks, spending more time in nature, reading the books she'd always wanted to get to. Most importantly, she realized that solitude wasn't loneliness, it was peaceful. That's the beauty of this stage in life. You're no longer obligated to fill your days with constant activity or conversation just to feel connected. You can enjoy your own company without needing constant validation from others. You can choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. So, if you've ever felt guilty about pulling back from social obligations, remember this: you're not withdrawing from life. You're embracing a new kind of fulfillment, one that comes from within and doesn't depend on anyone else. And that kind of peace, it only gets better with age. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Let's keep going. Reason number 3, fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of life's toughest lessons is realizing that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you've likely seen it happen. People who were once close drift away, friends who distance themselves when you need them most, or relationships that turn out to be one-sided. By the time you reach 70, you begin to understand that having fewer friendships doesn't just mean fewer social obligations. It also means fewer disappointments. Friendships, no matter how strong, come with expectations. There's the expectation to check in, be available, and offer support. But what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You call someone, but they don't call back. You make an effort, but they don't reciprocate. You find yourself giving more than you receive. And at this stage in life, do you really need that kind of stress? The answer is no. Take William, for example. At 78, he's seen friendships come and go. Some ended naturally, while others faded because he realized he was always the one putting in the effort. There were people he had known for decades who suddenly became too busy, too distracted, or too uninterested to maintain a real connection. At first, it stung. He wondered what he had done wrong and why certain people seemed to forget about him. But then, he had a realization. He hadn't changed. He had simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. That's the key. When you let go of the idea that you need a large circle of friends, you also release the disappointments that come with unmet expectations. You no longer have to feel frustrated when someone doesn't check in or let down when a friendship fades. Instead, you can focus on the most important person in your life, yourself. This doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means choosing quality over quantity. Rather than maintaining a long list of acquaintances, you prioritize the relationships that truly matter, those that bring you joy and require no effort to sustain. Whether it's family, a lifelong friend, or even a strong connection with yourself, these are the relationships that truly count. So, if you've ever felt that friendships have caused more stress than joy, remind yourself, it's okay to step back. It's okay to choose simplicity over complexity, peace over frustration. You don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. What you need is to let go of those who were never truly there for you in the first place. Reason number 4, your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you start to realize that time is your most valuable resource. When you were younger, it may have felt like there was always more of it. More time to spend with friends, more time to nurture social circles, and more time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You begin to understand that every hour, every day, and every moment is truly precious. And with that awareness comes the natural desire to be more selective about how you spend it. Friendships, while fulfilling, require time and effort. There are calls to return, visits to schedule, plans to keep. While some connections are worth maintaining, many are simply habits we continue out of obligation, rather than genuine enjoyment. At this stage in life, you have the right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship add to my happiness? Or does it feel like just another thing on my to-do list? Take Richard, for example. A man in his early 80s, Richard once had a lively social life. Dinner parties, group outings, and regular phone calls filled his schedule. But over time, he began to feel differently. The long conversations that once brought him joy started to feel draining. Social gatherings that were once exciting began to feel like obligations. One day, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he had an epiphany. He didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. So, Richard made a change. He stopped saying yes out of habit and began saying no when he didn't feel like going out. Instead of spending hours catching up on gossip or listening to complaints, he dedicated his time to things that truly brought him joy: reading, walking, learning new things, and simply enjoying the peace of his own company. The surprising part? He didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever before because he was spending his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways others expected. That's the key. When you let go of unnecessary friendships, you gain something far more valuable: time for yourself. Time to do the things you love, time to enjoy life at your own pace, and time to focus on your own happiness instead of constantly meeting the needs of others. So, if you ever find yourself questioning whether you should continue certain friendships, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Because at this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to spend it however you choose. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content to inspire and inform you. Now let's move forward. Reason number 5, true companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that happiness depends on having a large circle of friends. But the truth is, the most fulfilling companionship you can have is the one you build with yourself. By the time you reach 70, you've spent decades learning, growing, and evolving. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could. With that self-awareness comes a powerful realization: you are enough. For much of our lives, we're taught to seek companionship outside ourselves. We're told that being social is the key to happiness, and that loneliness is something to be avoided. But there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. Some of the happiest people in their later years are those who have embraced solitude, not as isolation, but as an opportunity for self-discovery, reflection, and peace. Take Eleanor, for instance. At 76, she used to believe she needed to be surrounded by people to feel fulfilled. She was always making plans, checking in on friends, and filling her days with activity. But after a while, she began to notice something. Despite being socially active, she often felt drained instead of uplifted. Many of her friendships were based on routine, not genuine connection. Worse, she found herself constantly adjusting to fit into conversations, trying to meet social expectations, and fearing exclusion. Then one day, she made a change. Eleanor decided to spend time with herself the way she would with a dear friend, doing things she loved, listening to her own thoughts, and simply enjoying her own company. She started taking long walks without the urge to call anyone. She visited cafes with a book instead of engaging in small talk. She spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life, rather than worrying about maintaining friendships out of obligation. To her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. What many don't realize is that true companionship isn't about how many people surround you. It's about how comfortable you are with yourself. When you stop relying on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. You no longer need external distractions to fill your time. You become your own source of joy, wisdom, and fulfillment. And here's the beauty of it. When you truly enjoy your own company, you naturally attract relationships that are effortless. Rather than chasing friendships out of loneliness, the right people will enter your life. Those who respect your space, understand your values, and bring peace rather than pressure. So, if you've ever worried that letting go of friendships might leave you feeling alone, remember this. The best company you can have is already with you. And when you embrace that, you'll realize that you were never truly alone to begin with. Reason number 6, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most empowering things you can do after 70 is to let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring you joy. Let go of the idea that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely. The moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer serve them. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy, answer calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances just because that's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of relationships that felt like work and instead focused on what truly brings you happiness? Take James, for example. In his late 70s, James once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He kept in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant or shallow. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day, he realized something. He wasn't enjoying it. The conversations were repetitive, the gatherings felt like routines, and deep down, he felt more exhausted than connected. So, he made a change. James stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful. He started prioritizing what truly mattered, spending more time outdoors, focusing on his health, learning new things, and embracing the freedom that came with not having to meet anyone's expectations. And in doing so, he discovered something remarkable. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. That's the power of letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It's about recognizing that your happiness isn't defined by how many people you have around you, but by how aligned you are with the life you actually want to live. When you embrace this mindset, something incredible happens. You stop worrying about who's in your life and start focusing on what brings you joy. You begin to appreciate the little things, the quiet mornings, the joy of a hobby, the peace of your own thoughts. You realize that true fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining friendships out of duty, but from living a life that feels natural and meaningful to you. So, if you've ever felt like you should be doing more to maintain friendships, ask yourself, is this adding to my happiness, or am I holding on out of habit? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never imagined. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs and inspires. Final thoughts. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed. The idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about releasing unnecessary obligations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing the life you truly want to live. Throughout this video, we've explored how stepping back from friendships that no longer serve you can actually lead to more joy, more time, and a deeper sense of fulfillment than you might have expected. What resonated with you the most? Which of these reasons stood out to you? Maybe you've already started letting go of friendships that felt more like an obligation than a joy. Perhaps you've discovered how much you enjoy your own company when you give yourself a chance. Or maybe this video has given you a new perspective on why it's okay to prioritize yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to incorporate it into your life. Your thoughts mean a lot to us, And reading your comments motivates us to continue creating content that inspires and informs. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep producing great content for you. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.